Patrick, also from the Agile Elephants. You're our partner in our Enterprise Digital Summit in London. I also wanted to ask you about the state of the social collaboration and digital workplace adoption in the UK, but first, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Alan Patrick. I'm one of the co-founders of Agile Elephant, and we're a consultancy and research operation looking into this area of, I guess you'd call it the digital transformation now, but mainly the social side of it.
So, I made this interview series already 2 years ago, and you've been also part of that at that point. Regarding the evolution of social collaboration and digital workplace adoption in UK's companies. Has anything changed since then?
We've done a lot of research in the last year of our own with UK companies, interviews, questionnaires. I think what's changing is that the companies that have gone down this road for some years, 5 years or so, are getting to a hiatus point. They've achieved their first set of aims, and what they're really looking for is what to do next. And quite a lot of them have also reporting they're at almost a stasis at a certain point. What their biggest problem is how to increase the benefits they're getting, or what next to do. And we're seeing a number of strategies being used by various companies. Another big problem they seem to have is there's now sort of system overload. A lot of them have got too many systems, and rationalization or how to make systems into work or talk to each other is starting to become an issue. This year's program is mainly looking at smaller businesses who will understand them better, but there seems to be almost a binary market of companies starting off and not knowing very much and needing to know the basics, and then companies who were the first wave, if you like, which are much more advanced, needing to know what to do next.
So, and on the problem or the issue of what to do next, can we go a little bit more concrete on this? Is it an organizational problem that they're having, or a cultural problem, or just an enablement problem of the workforce?
I think we're seeing three things from the research. The first is people are expanding the usage of the systems. Typically, whatever it was used for in the early days is now being expanded into other areas, and that brings with it its own problems. If the system started off as a communications tool, it's now being used for project management. People are wanting to know how to do that. One of the big issues we're hitting is the mobility of a lot of the workforce. The systems typically start off with desktop people, and then they have to spread out to people who are not at desktops. And mobile solutions in general haven't kept up with the capability of the main solutions. There's definitely organizational, cultural issues. I mean, I've been implementing computer systems for 30 years, and this is a fairly standard problem, is ensuring that the culture and the motivation and the structure allows these new systems to work properly. And it's a two-way process. Often there's over-optimism about what the system can do, and not enough working with the people to make sure that the system actually does what they need to do, because nothing makes a system fall out of favor quicker than making it harder or more difficult, or potentially people feel threatened by it. And I think there's going to be has to be a lot of work done on, as there is in any form of implementation of new technology, and how to make it work for the people who are actually using it.
But isn't that just a question or a matter of time that we get groups, one group after the other of the company on those platforms and working productively on there?
I think partly it's time. Most people take time to get used to change, but I think there are, if you go back through the sort of history of implementation of systems, probably 40, 50 years, there are some basic rules that have come up again and again and are broken over and over again. A lot of these systems come up from ground up, whereas that once they get to a certain scale, you need top management support. This is not new news. It's 30, 40 years old. People have found this, because that top management support effectively gives them resources, access to channels that aren't easy to do from a ground up. They get air cover gets flown, so you need to do that sort of thing. On the other hand, it's very clear that implementation goes down well with people if there's a what's in it for me, i.e. why am I doing this? Why some managements who just try to impose solutions for 50 years have failed, and nothing has changed there either. So it's kind of it's almost a sort of repeat of lessons learned over and over again. So I think there is, in my opinion, there's a little bit of muddying the waters with new organizational theories and so on and so forth. Whereas again, if you look historically, the same mistakes tend to be made each time. Too much change too fast puts people off. Too rigid when you're asking people to change puts people off. So it's trying to get that balance between the two.
If we think about advices or recommendations, what would be your key recommendation on how to drive these initiatives forward?
I think I'd go back to what's worked in implementation in my past of MRP and just-in-time systems is firstly to ensure that the people who are having to do it have a very good reason to do it, i.e. it benefits them. Secondly, to ensure that the management is bought into it and sufficient resources are put into that. Thirdly, and I think this is something to ignored, is sometimes the business cases are either too aggressive, so the benefits can't possibly be done, and then there's disillusionment with what comes up, or not enough resources put in, and not enough time is given to make it work. You often find that projects that are deemed not to have succeeded actually do, but they just take longer. A lot of research on complex projects always says they take longer than you think, cost more than you think, and so on. And I think each generation forgets the lessons of the last.
Great. Thank you for the interview.